It was just another busy afternoon outside the mall, until Rex froze. His bark cut through the crowd, locked onto a single trolley. No one else gave a second glance. What the officers pulled from it changed the tone of the entire day, but the real shock, it wasn't even the most dangerous thing hidden there. So what was? Here's the full story. But first, drop your dog's name in the comments, and make sure you've hit subscribe. The late afternoon sun reflected off the polished glass walls of Westview Mall, a place where weekend shoppers flowed in and out with bags, strollers, and the occasional armful of impulse purchases. The parking lot hummed with the sound of rolling carts, the faint buzz of car engines starting and stopping, and the chatter of people enjoying the last hours before sunset. Officer Grant wasn't here for shopping. He was on a routine patrol, a slow loop around the perimeter of the mall, a place usually busy but rarely a source of major police activity. Riding in the passenger seat beside him, strapped into a harness that practically gleamed in the sunlight, was Rex, the department's top K9. Rex had a record that spoke louder than any commendation. Countless narcotics busts, missing persons located in impossible conditions, and alerts that had prevented more than one crime from unfolding. He wasn't just trained, he had that rare instinct that made handlers trust him even when nothing seemed obvious. Today, though, there was nothing obvious, or so Grant thought. As they rounded the east side of the lot near the delivery entrance, Rex's calm posture shifted. His head lifted slightly, nostrils flaring in the warm breeze. A low, deliberate rumble began in his throat. Grant felt the vibration more than he heard it. "All right, buddy, what is it?" he murmured, slowing the cruiser. Rex's gaze locked on a point ahead. A solitary shopping trolley parked away from the cart return, positioned oddly near the loading bay doors. It wasn't close to the entrance, nor in the path of foot traffic. No bags sat inside, no visible owner nearby. But Rex's reaction wasn't mild curiosity. It was focus, sharp and unwavering. Grant knew the difference between a curious sniff and this. This was his alert posture, tail stiff, ears forward, weight slightly shifted onto his front paws. Still, it was just a trolley, empty. Or so it seemed. Grant parked the SUV and stepped out, clipping the lead to Rex's harness. The dog moved immediately, pulling toward the trolley with intent. His pace was steady, not frantic, but every movement screamed purpose. Halfway there, Grant scanned the surroundings. The nearby loading bay was closed, no movement behind the tinted service doors. A handful of shoppers walked along the far side of the lot, unaware. A couple stood by their car, loading groceries, occasionally glancing over. When they reached the trolley, Rex circled at once, nose low, inhaling deep. His body stiffened near the front corner, right where the metal frame met the plastic base. The scent here was strong for him, strong enough that he began pawing at the ground beside the wheel. Grant crouched, glancing into the trolley's basket. Nothing but a few stray scraps of plastic wrap and what looked like a forgotten receipt. Nothing visible, he muttered, but Rex's intensity didn't waver. It wasn't until Rex lowered his nose near the bottom rack, where people sometimes place larger items, that Grant noticed it. A black duffel bag, small enough to fit snugly between the trolley bars, wrapped tightly in a thin plastic covering, no markings, no tags, and no sign that it belonged to anyone nearby. Grant's instincts flared. A duffel bag left in an odd location was reason enough to be cautious, but combined with Rex's reaction, this was something else. He radioed in, requesting backup. Protocol demanded the area be secured before opening or moving the bag. The dispatcher's calm voice acknowledged his request. But even as he spoke, Grant's mind was working through possibilities. Drugs? Weapons? Cash? Or something far worse? Rex shifted his position, moving back to the side of the bag, pressing his nose along the zipper line. His breathing changed, quick inhales, sharp, deliberate. Then he sat. The sit wasn't random. It was the trained final signal that he had confirmed an alert. Grant straightened, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the lot again. If the bag was here deliberately, someone might be watching. That thought was still forming when he caught sight of a man near the mall's side entrance. Tall, wearing a faded baseball cap, standing unnervingly still amid the flow of shoppers. He wasn't looking at store signs or checking his phone. His eyes were fixed in the direction of the trolley. Grant's gut tightened. Backup was still minutes away. He unclipped Rex's lead just enough to give him mobility, his eyes never leaving the man. But before he could approach, the man turned, slipping back into the mall crowd. It was too quick, too intentional to be coincidence. Grant wanted to follow, but protocol dictated staying with the suspicious object until additional units arrived. And if the man was involved, leaving the scene now could mean losing both leads. Rex seemed to sense the tension. His gaze flicked toward the entrance the man had used, then back to the bag, as if torn between the scent trail and the object. Minutes felt longer in moments like this. The parking lot's ordinary hum now felt charged, every sound sharper, every movement suspicious. When the first patrol car pulled up, Grant quickly briefed them. They moved to block off the immediate area, redirecting pedestrians toward other entrances. A bomb squad wasn't called yet. There was no visible threat, no obvious device, but the unknown nature of the bag and Rex's precision alert meant they had to tread carefully. As the officers set up the perimeter, a store employee came out from the service doors nearby, looking confused. He asked what was going on, and when Grant described the trolley and the bag, the man's brow furrowed. "That's weird," he said. "That spot's under camera coverage. Nobody's supposed to leave stuff there. It's right by the freight drop zone." Cameras. That meant they might already have footage of who left the bag. But when the employee checked his phone, likely texting someone inside, his expression changed. That's strange. They said the camera feed for that angle's been down since this morning. Tech guys were supposed to fix it later today." Grant's pulse ticked up. Cameras down, a bag left in a blind spot, and a watcher slipping away into the mall. None of this was coincidence. And there was one more detail. The duffel was too clean. No dust, no scuff marks from being dragged or tossed. It hadn't been there long. One of the backup officers knelt to examine the outer plastic wrap without disturbing it. "Looks like this was sealed up tight. Whoever put it here didn't want anything leaking out." Leaking, the word sat heavy in Grant's mind. Rex's ears twitched at something behind them, a sound faint enough that Grant almost missed it. A soft click, maybe a shoe scuff coming from the far corner of the loading bay area. When Grant looked, there was nothing, but something about the stillness in that direction made the air feel heavier. For now, the bag stayed where it was, but every instinct told him this was just the start, that whatever was inside wouldn't just explain the scene, it would connect to something far bigger. And the man in the baseball cap, Grant knew they hadn't seen the last of him. The mall's evening rush was beginning to swell, but outside, the east parking lot was cut off from the normal flow of shoppers. Yellow tape fluttered faintly in the breeze, cordoning off the area around the trolley. Red and blue lights from 2 patrol cars bathed the rows of parked vehicles in rotating flashes, drawing stares from people passing by. Rex sat at the edge of the perimeter, eyes still fixed on the duffel bag in the trolley. He wasn't distracted by voices, camera flashes from curious bystanders, or the occasional shout from a parent corralling their kids. His entire focus remained locked. Grant stood just behind him, scanning the crowd beyond the tape. He didn't need to spot the man in the baseball cap again to know he was probably still out there, watching from somewhere unseen. The timing, the placement of the bag, the failed camera, it was all too deliberate. A mall security supervisor approached with a tablet in hand, his face tight. "We can't access any video from that camera angle at all. It's not just down, it's been wiped."
"Wiped?"
Grant's eyes narrowed. "Yeah, data's gone. No backup files. Whoever did it knew what they were doing." That meant the bag wasn't placed here on impulse, it was planned. An unmarked SUV pulled up. Detective Rowan stepped out, dressed in plain clothes but with the kind of presence that drew instant attention. Grant had worked with him before. Rowan had a knack for connecting seemingly unrelated events, building cases like a puzzle. "What have we got?" Rowan asked, eyes already on the duffel. Grant explained the alert, the man in the cap, the downed camera, and Rex's behavior. Rowan listened without interrupting, his gaze flicking between the bag and the mall entrance. "We open it here?" Grant asked. Rowan shook his head. "Not without containment. We move it safe, sealed, and we check every gram inside," but his voice lowered. "We need to think about who might be circling while we do." Grant glanced toward the crowd again. That was when another threat appeared. A young woman, mid-20s, wearing an apron from a seafood stall inside the mall, stepped hesitantly toward the tape. She looked nervous but determined. "Officer, I think I saw that bag earlier today." Grant waved her through to speak. She explained that she had been on her break around noon when she went out the side entrance for air. The trolley had been there then, but she swore it didn't have a bag in it at the time. What caught her attention, though, was a man standing near it, pretending to talk on his phone while watching the loading doors. When she described him, Grant felt the confirmation settle in his chest. Tall, faded baseball cap, gray jacket, same man. "What time exactly?" Rowan asked. "About 12:10, she replied without hesitation. Rowan looked at Grant. "That's hours before you got here, which means the bag was placed later. Our friend in the cap's been back at least twice." Grant's mind ran through the possibilities. If the man had been scouting the area, waiting for the right moment to plant the bag, then why linger after it was in place? Was he making sure it got picked up by someone? Or was he waiting to see if it was found? Rex shifted suddenly, his head turning toward the far end of the lot, not toward the mall, but toward the service road behind it. Grant followed his gaze. 2 rows over, near the fence line, a black sedan sat idling. Tinted windows, no visible plates from this angle. "Rowan," Grant said quietly, "you seeing this?" The detective's eyes followed the line of sight. "Yeah, and I don't like it." Before they could move, the sedan pulled away slowly, taking the narrow exit that led behind the complex. Rowan turned to the nearest officer. "Get a unit on that car, now." But by the time the patrol vehicle reached the service road, the sedan was gone. Inside the taped-off area, the evidence team finally arrived with gloves, containment cases, and scanners. The bag was carefully lifted from the trolley and sealed inside a heavy-duty evidence box. Rex watched every movement, muscles still taut, as if the object itself was dangerous even through layers of containment. As they loaded it into the back of the van, Grant noticed something. The underside of the trolley frame had a faint smear of what looked like grease or oil. Not the kind you'd expect from a market cart, but thick, almost tar-like. He pointed it out to Rowan. The detective crouched, took a sample with a swab, and slipped it into a vial. "Could be transfer from wherever the bag was before it came here. Could give us a location." With the bag secured, the immediate tension eased for most of the bystanders. They started to drift away, the spectacle over. But Grant knew better. This wasn't over. 2 hours later, the duffel lay on a stainless steel table under bright white lights. Gloves snapped into place, tools lined neatly at the ready. Rowan stood nearby with Grant, both watching through the glass as the evidence tech carefully cut away the outer plastic wrap. Inside the bag were 2 inner compartments. The first held vacuum-sealed packages, thin, rectangular, and uniform, but the labels were gone, stripped clean. The second compartment was more puzzling. A smaller metal case sat snugly inside, secured with a combination lock. No brand, no markings. The tech set it aside for now, focusing on the sealed packages. They weren't food, weren't electronics, and didn't match any standard packaging for retail products. When the first package was scanned, the results came back as unknown organic material. The tech's brow furrowed. "This isn't something we can ID without a full chemical breakdown." Grant and Rowan exchanged a look. "Let's check the case," Rowan said. When the lock was cracked open, the lid lifted slowly. Inside were rows of glass vials, each filled with a cloudy, pale liquid. Every one was labeled only with a number. Grant's stomach sank. This wasn't just suspicious, it was intentional, organized, and clearly meant to be kept hidden. And as if on cue, Rowan's phone buzzed with a call. He listened for a few seconds, his face tightening. "That sedan?" Grant asked. Rowan nodded grimly. "It was found abandoned 20 minutes ago, 3 miles out. No prints, no ID, but the engine was still warm. Whoever was driving walked away fast." They both knew what that meant. Someone was watching the investigation and was now on foot. Back in the lot, Rex remained restless. Even after the bag was gone, he kept glancing toward the mall's eastern wing. Grant noticed it, crouched down beside him. "You're telling me there's more, aren't you?" he muttered. And in that quiet moment, with the background hum of the city fading, Grant realized something. The bag was never meant to be the end. It was just the bait. If Rex hadn't locked onto that trolley, we might never have found what was really going on behind that mall. And believe me, the bag was just the beginning. What we uncovered next connected dots no one saw coming. Make sure you're subscribed, because the next part of this story, you do not want to be the one who hears it second.